Hello, everybody. Welcome to this very special episode of The Chat. We are joined by one of the most famous jockeys this country has produced. Our very special guest is Willie Pike. Before we introduce him, Benny, what a coup this is for us.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I got in touch with Willie's manager, Dale Verhagen, a while ago via Twitter, and he was more than happy to offer up Willie. And what a spring carnival Willie's had so far, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic carnival so far. Well, without further ado, let's introduce him, the wizard from the West, the one and only Mr. William Pike. G'day, Will. How are you, mates?
I'm going good, guys. How are you going?
Very well, thank you. Very well indeed. Mates, I'll kick off the questioning. You've obviously come over from WA to Victoria to ride in the Spring Carnival. Obviously, we're in a pandemic at the moment. Usually you just jump straight off a plane and straight into track work, but you've had to take a 14-day isolation. What's been the most challenging time throughout this period at the moment with no crowds on track, professionally and personally, and also in that 14-day isolation period?
Yeah, it's had its ups and downs. Probably a lot of different battles actually. So you've got the personal battles of not having the kids and the family here, or at first it's okay, and then you really miss them, and then they start getting on their lives without you, so you kind of you're getting left out a little bit, and at the same time they're missing me, I suppose. So that's pretty hard. And it wasn't too bad as far as the isolation went. I only had to come over. I only ended up doing probably about 5 or 6 days. All I had to do was pass it, because I was coming from Western Australia to Melbourne. I only had to pass a coronavirus test, and then I was good to go. But it was all still very tricky time-wise, because I wasn't allowed to take rides until I had a clear pass and I had rides lined up. So it was still, even though I didn't have to do the full 2 weeks, it still ends up being a little bit stressful, because you're trying not to leave people in the lurch. And then there's sort of just the riding aspect is, trying to adjust on the fly and, just get used to things.
And we'll probably, what I was saying, the biggest challenges being what you were talking about is definitely missing your family and your kids. And I know how much you love spending time on the farm too.
Yeah, that's right. I'm very much, before I had kids, I can't believe I actually like kids as much as I do. I hope that comes across the right way. But I absolutely love my kids, and I love each stage of them growing up and watching them. When I was having children, or when they were young, every time people were like, oh, now they're walking, now you're in trouble, or now they wait till they're teenagers. Well, I've been completely the other way. I love every step. Every next step has been better and better. So I really do love my kids, and miss those little stages where you just see them just click and change, and I do like to get out to the farm as often as I can, and they come along with me all the time, and quite often it'll just be me and the kids, and we go and do our own thing. So I do miss those types of things, and I basically do a lot of sitting down and planning of what I'm going to do when I get back, but there'll be no time for anything, because it'll be straight into our carnival.
Well, you've ridden some quality horses in this carnival in Melbourne at the moment, and obviously in provincial meetings around the carnival as well. Who's the best you've ridden so far, and what reasons?
It probably has to be shared between Arcadia Queen and Ole Kirk. Arcadia Queen probably always gets put up there, because she's basically the whole reason why I'm here. She's won me a Group 1. I didn't have a lot of luck on her in the Cox Plate. That didn't quite go to plan, but she's still just a wonderful horse, and I love the feel she gives. She's so big and strong, and just feels like she can do anything. And then Ole Kirk, never sat on him before, and as soon as I did sit on him, he was just as smooth as silk. Lovely professional horse. Sometimes the trainers will try to give you a description of the horse, and they don't quite nail it. But with this one, he was so professional and so good. The Hawks team told me what he'd be like. I spoke to Tommy Berry before. He told me what he'd be like. And what they said is what I got. He was that professional, silky smooth. Soon as I got him in the prelim, I was just like, wow, this is a nice horse. You could just feel it. And he was as professional, just jumped and did everything that he needed to do. He stopped, start, in, out, and just took it all in his stride and still won.
And obviously you've been able to get a good association going with the Hawk stable, but I see also you've got a good association with the Busted and Young stable as well. Are they the two stables that have given you the most support since you've come over from WA for the Carnival?
Yeah, Trent and Natalie, Trent Buston and Natalie Young, they sort of were real good to me. They got on to me right from the get-go. They've been giving me rides from the first day I got here. So they were really handy. They give me a go and give me a leg up. And then with the Hawks team, Dwayne Dunn got injured, so he's their stable rider. So it wasn't really something expecting to pop up, and not really an angle that you were probably working on. So Dwayne Dunn got hurt, and I don't exactly know how my name got plucked out of the hat, but it did, and I'm very grateful it did, because they've made my Carnival a whole lot better by being associated with them.
Pikey, one camp that you have got a massive connection with is Grant and Alana Williams, obviously over from WA. Now you've ridden Arcadia Queen, as you said, as well as Windstorm. Can you explain the connection that you've got with that camp? You've got an amazing record of riding 1 in 4 winners every time you ride for that camp.
Look, we've been through a lot of ups and downs. I've been riding for them. I don't even know if you put it in years terms. It has to be at least 10 years. We've experienced a lot together. When they've been probably not training so well, when I've been not riding so well at different times, like they were training really good and I was riding poorly, and vice versa. And I've just been with them the whole way through, from a very little from a smaller stable. Grant Williams was changing over from trots to gallops, and everyone was learning a lot. And I think just through being there the whole time, just being a constant, we actually have all learnt a lot on the way through, and we've actually learnt a lot about ourselves and each other. We know what's expected of one another. We know when to. I suppose Grant Williams, he may not be upset with your ride, but he doesn't want to talk about. In the Cox Plate afterwards, we never really spoke because we're very disappointed. But we may not necessarily be disappointed in one another, but we're disappointed, so we don't talk. You let it go, and I'll talk to him a few days later, and it's all right. But just little things like that, like knowing when to press each other's buttons or when not to, really helps. And it's basically come through about being together a long time, making the mistakes together, and then learning from it.
Talk about that relationship. How would you describe your relationship with Mr. Peters? Obviously, being Bob Peters, one of the biggest owner breeders in all of Australia, the famous cerise and white colours.
Yeah, we've got a very professional relationship. I haven't spoken to him very much on the phone at all before this trip away. I've probably spoken to him more on the phone, which even so isn't a lot, as I've probably spoken to him on the phone 5-6 times. So, but I would have only spoken to him 5 or 6 times in 10 years leading up to this on the phone. We're very much, I really do. I know it's easy to say because I have a lot of success for him and he's got a lot of good horses, but I really do enjoy riding for him because what you see is what you get. He says, don't sugarcoat it. You don't need to be rude, but you don't have to sugarcoat it. I even have been told off in the past for trying to be too kind. Like he needs to know, he's always constantly needing to know where his horses are at, and he can't be having people, like sugarcoat it and tell them they're faster than they are. Because so I really enjoy riding for him, but it is very professional. We've never been to dinner together. We've never done things like that, and a phone call is usually for something else, maybe to do with farms or cars, because he has a car dealership. It's very rarely about horses.
I want to tell you about the Caulfield Guineas Day, Will. Massive day's racing, 4 Group 1s on offer that day. You rode 2 winners of 2 horses that you have mentioned in this conversation, Arcadia Queen in the Ned Stakes and also Ole Kirk in the 1,000 Guineas. When the fields come out, you're looking at your form, you're looking at obviously where you want to position yourself to the race. Do you get a sense it's going to be a big day for you personally, or is it just basically plan out that way?
You hope. That's probably all I can do. Look, I don't know, when you do your form now, I'm not real big on form because it's a double-edged sword form. It helps you one race and then bites you in the backside the next. So I do like to try and think of find where, not so much where I'm going to be, but where I think the ones to beat are going to be or something like that. But it's very hard to do straight up and down form, I believe. So, but yeah, I looked through it, and all I sort of looked at, say with an Ollie Kirk ride in the Guineas, I looked and I just sort of thought, I just looked and went, I drew 7, and 7 for me can be tricky. It can be perfect or it can be really tricky. And this day it worked out. I looked and sort of thought, I reckon I can get in good from there and not be too far away. I just looked and went, I think I'll get a good run from there. So, yeah, I did look at that particular race and go, I think I'm good here. But some of the others, not so much. You're just looking and going, well, I hope I can do this and I hope I can do that. And you're hoping for a bit of luck on the day. But no, I don't ever really sit there and go, geez, I'm in for a big day. I sort of probably look at it as like, I'll be either a hero or a mug by the end of the day.
And here in Victoria, we race pretty much every day. But in WA, you race probably 2 or 3 times a week. Is that probably the main difference you've noticed since you've come to Victoria to ride for the Carnival compared to always being in WA?
Yeah, that is definitely one thing to get used to. I haven't actually really done that since I've been here. I think maybe I rode 3 days in a row, one week there. I've been, I don't know, I haven't really come to try and ride at every meeting and ride every horse. I was very wary of not getting a suspension for the Carnival. So I did limit quite a bit of my exposure, I suppose, to some of the other places. But it's definitely something, I think I find it a bit more surreal when you have 2 meetings in a day. So that at home, that happens, I think, once or twice a year, where it happens all the time here. So if you sit and you're like, oh, you know, I'm sitting on the other end of the state, and then there's races on at Sale and we're at Bendigo, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. And trainers will have multiple runners at both locations. It's sort of a whole nother level of organisation, and because at home, like the trainers quite often go with their horses, but here we can't do that. They're in 2 different places, and logistically, it's a whole new way of thinking.
Your career stats are super impressive. 16% winning ratio, 41% in the placings. That's just astonishing. What do you put your success down to?
I really don't know. I really don't know. Just try. Just turn up and try. Wear your heart on your sleeve. Just have a go. Don't take life too serious. Like, I go out and do my best. If my best isn't good enough, so be it. Don't worry about it, because, like I said, I'll do my best. And if it doesn't happen, well, I'm pretty disappointed. But what can you do about it? You did your best at the time, and you might have made a mistake. You might have done a good job. But I generally try to stay pretty level. If I ride a good race, well, I've just done my job. And if I ride a bad race, well, that's part of the job, and try to limit how many bad ones you do, I guess.
Quite well documented. You're a country boy at heart. You grew up in Coolgardie, I believe, which is just over 500 k's out of Perth. What are some of your memories of growing up in a small country town like Coolgardie?
Great. I loved every bit of it. We used to open our back gate and ride our motorbikes out across and go wherever we wanted. It was so open, and not to say there were no rules, but you did what you wanted, and you were out. You weren't really disrupting anyone. You could do what you wanted. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. If I wasn't at my friend's house, my friends were at my house. And if we weren't at each other's houses, we're on our push bikes or our motorbikes trying to build a dirt jump or something along those lines. I think I had a great childhood. A lot of people sort of don't like those little country towns. They feel a bit trapped, but I loved it, and it would have been nice if I know it suited me down to the ground.
And mate, you wanted to be an underground miner when you were growing up, I believe, and then went to a bush racing carnival. Tell us about that, mate. Can you recall what carnival it was and what made you fall in love with racing? You wanted to be a jockey off the back of that?
Yeah, I think it was the Meekatharra 2-day round. So you go there and race Saturday, and then Monday. So I hadn't been to a race meeting before of any kind. My uncle suggested I go along with this trainer and see if I liked it. And I didn't have a clue what I was in for, really. I just went along, Mum packed a few clothes and that for me. And in the back of the truck, we didn't get to ride up front. We were in the back, and that was all right. That was good. Enjoyed that. And I know, just went there, and everyone did their best and tried to win a race. And all I really did was sort of empty a few waters and pick up a few yards and things like that. But I really just enjoyed the whole lot of it. It was very much a laid back version of racing. And I thought it was great fun. And I really liked the adventure side of it, jumping in the truck and going off to these meetings. And like, they were a long way away. They're like 10, 12-hour drives, and they were probably the closer ones. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I thought I'd like to give this a go. And picturing to myself, thinking, oh, this would be it'd be nice if I could do the country circuit and earn a little bit of money riding horses. That'd be good.
You talk about some of those country carnivals, Willie. I watch them with interest from down here in Victoria. It looks like it's a whole side little industry to racing in WA on those far-flung dirt tracks, but it looks like everyone from all the cattle stations and that, it's their day. They all get together and it's a real community feel. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Say a couple of the cup meetings, like a Roban Cup or a Port Edlin Cup, which are the ones that I used to get to, they actually have as much or more atmosphere than some of the big races, because there might not necessarily be as many people there, but everybody's actually in the same area. Everyone's enjoying it, and they actually get a really good atmosphere about them and a really good vibe. And it's just good fun. And probably without that extra bit of pressure of racing for big money, where it's the end of the world if you make a mistake. So it was a great way to learn without the cameras on me, but at the same time, still getting a real good feel for the good atmospheres and the enjoyable part of racing.
I really want to pump your tyres up with this question. You win jockey premierships in WA for fun. Let's be realistic here. We go back to the 2016-2017 season. You rode nearly 200 winners, which was the best result in the country. An achievement that you must be really, really proud of.
Yeah, I'm happy about it now that it's happened. But I'll tell you what, when you're doing it and you're in the moment, it doesn't feel like much of an achievement, because you're, like I said, you're winning races. You're pretty clever, and then you go through a patch where you're not, and you feel pretty ordinary. So throughout the year, you don't really get to enjoy it. You get to the end, and someone says, "Oh, you rode 200 or whatever," and it's like, "Oh, really?" Like, it didn't feel like that, because you're always struggling with your mind games, and at the end of the day, I get quality rides, and I expect myself to win on them. Everybody else expects me to win on them as well. So some of them aren't that much fun. They do come with their degree of pressure. So you don't get to enjoy a lot of those 200 wins. It's your job and make sure you don't mess it up. So, but now that it's done and I get to look at it and go, well, I've sort of got that record for now, and no one can ever take that away from you.
Your maiden Group 1 winner was aboard Cat's Fun in the WATC Derby in 2006. What are some of your memories of that day and of the race itself?
I remember different parts. Well, I think I drew a little bit tricky that day as well, something like 10 or something along those lines. I managed to get out really good. I got across. I ended up sitting 1-1. I was outside the leader. One come around me and give me cover, and I was pretty happy with myself. And I remember Scenic Shot was actually the boom horse, and he was I don't know if he was red hot, but he was the favourite, and he drew 1, and he ended up getting trapped back along the fence. I don't know why. I probably remember more about Scenic Shot than I do myself, because I think there was a lot of focus on me. He was the one to beat, and I put a lot of focus on him being the one that I needed to beat. So I probably had more of an eye on Scenic Shot than I did my own self. So anyway, I got in a good spot. Scenic Shot got caught up on the fence and come wide and dashing, and I thought I was home and hosed, and it just kept mowing me down. And I probably a bit of a sense of panic the last 50 metres that I was still going to get beat. but then complete and utter joy once I did go over the line in front. And yeah, it was not something not something I ever expected to do, to ride a Group 1. As I said, when I very first started, I thought I'd be a country rider, and happy to be there.
Tell us about preparation, mate. Obviously, for people who don't know much about the jockey ranks, the preparations that jockeys go into for race by race, meet by meet, season by season. Can you just explain some of the things that you do personally that makes you so successful?
I'm pretty laid back, I think, after being here, seeing what some of these other guys do. I don't do a lot, to tell you the truth. They're running, they're exercising, they're really putting in a lot of hard yards. I'm a bit more casual than that. I'll probably keep myself more busy with the farm. I've got cattle and things like that. So my preparation is probably more just keeping myself busy. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. And then come race day, I'll worry about it on race day. So a lot of the times I won't even know what I'm riding until scratchings on a Saturday morning. That's just how I approach it. No point worrying. I've been doing it long enough now that if I can't do a lot of it on instinct, then I'm already in trouble. Yeah, don't worry. Worry about it when the gates open, pretty much. That's how I get by.
You talk about the preparation. Who do you feel is one of the no, I'll take that again. You talk about preparation. Who do you feel of your fellow riders works the hardest, and who is the most competitive, do you feel? Either here in Victoria or in WA or wherever in Australia?
Well, I think, I'll tell you what, all these lads here are super competitive. They have varying degrees of success, but I don't think there's any one that's less competitive than the other. And as far as who puts in the hard yards, a guy like Jamie Mott, I'll tell you what, he's a heavyweight rider, and he does an absolute marvellous job to get himself to the races week in, week out, riding the weights that he does and doing what he has to do to get there. Like I said, you can do it a couple of times and it's all right, but he does it every week. And I think he's a bit of a marvel being able to stay sane and keep turning up.
Your role model growing up, Will, who was that? And who's had the biggest influence on your career to date?
I sort of a few different ones. Like there was a country rider who taught me a lot when I was growing up. That was Brad Ball. I learned a fair bit from him, and he probably started off being my first person I really looked up to and tried to take some sort of advice from. And then it went on to like a Stephen Miller and a Paul Harvey. So Paul Harvey was just the king when I was coming through the ranks, and he's still a great rider now. Like he's still probably the hardest guy to beat out there. When he's sort of on song, he's the hardest guy to beat out there. So yeah, it was a Stephen Miller and then a Paul Harvey. I never looked to the East Coast. I knew of Damien Oliver, of course, and all the other good jockeys that were here, but I wasn't in the East, so I only looked in the West, and they were the best in the West, and that's who I tried to follow.
And we touched on it a little bit earlier, Willie, what you like to do away from racing, but could you tell us a little bit more? What's life like for Willie Pike when you're not at the racetrack doing your job?
Yeah, okay. So I live about, say, 45 minutes out of the city to the south. I've got a couple of 10-acre lots out there. That's where I live and muck around. But I found over the years being there, I'm probably a bit too redneck for 10 acres. I wanted to ride motorbikes, not all the time, just once in every now and again. But they're loud and they're noisy, and you actually can upset your neighbours a lot. And I'm very conscious of that. I don't want what I do to annoy everyone else. So I ended up buying a farm, 1,300 acres, out in a place called Beaufort River. So it's about 2 hours out of the city, and that's where I go. When I feel like being an idiot, pretty much, I go there, and I've got cows out there somewhere between sort of 100 and 200, depending on the time of year. But anyway, that's where I go. I've got guns and shoot targets and ride motorbikes and try my hand at all sorts of things. I'll try to do fencing. I try to do a lot of things. Start a million projects and never finish any of them. So that's probably about what I do. I think I made a career out of starting a project and never finishing it.
Well, you've got two famous sayings: back pike, drink what you like, and back pike in the last. Your views on those? Do you feel the expectation when you go into the last race of a meeting, knowing that the whole country is on you to ride that last one of the day to get them out of trouble?
Yeah, no, not normally. I don't. I normally notice it more when I mess it up, and I'm like, oh, geez, they're going to be not happy with me today. But not really. I've always only ever just gone out and rode my horse. That's why some people, I suppose, don't like my riding style, because I'll sit a red hot chance 3 back the fence and they'll be like, what on earth are you doing? I ride my horse to where I think it needs to be to win, not the expectation of the punter, not the price. Yeah, so I do try to forget all that stuff, but it's definitely hard to not notice it when more so, like I said, when you win on it, well, it's probably no one really, there's like, oh, well, they're happy, but you probably cop a lot more backlash when you get beat, and that comes with it. But as I said, when it's my fault, well, then I really sort of feel pretty bad.
And they call you the Wizard from the West. Obviously, you're from WA. Where does the Wizard nickname come from?
I'm not sure. I think our race caller, Darren,
yep,
I think he just might have produced it one day and it stuck. So, yeah, I think that might have been where it come from. I don't know about any of these nicknames really, but whatever works. You know, if they're singing a song about you, well, you must be doing something right. So I'll take it.
All good, Willie. Well, mate, that wraps up the formal part of the conversation. We just finished off with a section we call the final furlong. Just a couple of short questions and answers, mate. I'll let Benny kick it off.
Yep.
First of all, what is your favourite race on the calendar to ride in?
For me, it's always Railway Stakes Day. As I said, I've never really looked east, and I haven't really got to experience a lot of these days. But for me, it was always Railway Stakes Day. It's a high pressure day. It's a day that, for me, it's our mini Melbourne Cup, I'd say, or our mini Cox Plate Day. It's the day that we want, and the pressure and the the highs and lows of that day. And I've had some highs and some lows, so yeah, definitely that day, Railway Stakes Day.
And what drives and motivates William Pike?
I don't know if I have any one thing that drives me, but I'd say the main thing is that I'm a sore loser. I hate getting beat. I win a lot of races, but I want to win more. Just, I don't know, winning's a habit, and I hate getting beat. And as I said, I'm a bit of a sook when I do get beat. So I think that just keeps me going.
Obviously, during your time down here in Victoria, there'd be a lot of tracks you hadn't ridden at before. But what is your favourite track to ride at, and why? I
don't know, one of the city tracks or any track?
Any track. It can be back at home in WA, it can be here in Victoria, it can be anywhere.
Oh, probably my favourite track overall would probably be Belmont. It's always a place that I've had a lot of success at. But over here in Melbourne, I found a lot of the tracks are tight and short straights. I never ever knew that. Looking on from over at home, I was like, never realised that there's a lot of short straights and tight turns. So I really don't like a lot of those. But I probably like a Bendigo and a Sail are really nice tracks over here. I enjoyed those two.
And throughout your magnificent career, you've ridden some of the best horses that we've produced. You mentioned Arcadia Queen and Ole Kirk. Which has been William Pike's favourite horse to ride in a race?
Favourite to ride in a race? Well, I'd probably say Ole Kirk, because I've had one ride for one win, and it was pretty ecstatic. Arcadia Queen's probably the best horse I've ridden, but she's won a couple of Group 1s and things like that. But you don't get to enjoy riding her. She's really hard to ride. She's a higher maintenance lady, and so she's a lot less enjoyable. So I'll say Ole Kirk was probably the most enjoyable to ride.
And your favourite sport away from racing, Willie?
Cricket. Most people are probably expecting me to say AFL or something, but for some reason, cricket gets me. I can sit on the couch and watch cricket all day. I just enjoy watching cricket. It's a good game. I play a little bit of indoor cricket. I'm hopeless, but like I said, I do try. But I just really enjoy my cricket.
And one final question before we go, mate. Superstitions, have you got any?
Not really. I'm pretty superstitious free. My favourite number's 13, so that probably sums it up.
Fantastic. Well, William, thanks so much, mate. We've really enjoyed your time. We understand it is a very busy period for all in the racing industry in the Spring Carnival. So we thank you so much for your time and we wish you all the best for your future. Thanks very much, mate.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
That's all we've got time for this week on the chat. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you again soon.